I don't know.
Say it with me. I don't know.
Good God, it is liberating. I am a towering mountain of ignorance. I don't know. We're taught to believe that everything has a reason. And so we observe the world, we see what happened, and then we define the thing that happened as the reason the thing happened. But I think a lot of the time we end up mixing up thinking something with knowing something. This is why it can be so impossible to talk about certain topics with certain people. They've tied those suppositions to themselves so tightly with knots of narrative and constructed reality and values that there's just no untying it. And maybe unsurprisingly, in those situations, the best course of action is just to be friends. Maybe even ask them about that thing that they've created, because to them, it's immensely valuable. The world as we perceive it, as we've built it inside of ourselves, is a lie that we tell to ourselves, not out of deception, but out of necessity. We have no other choice. We simply cannot understand the world as it is, and so we construct. But sometimes I just have to tell myself the thing that is definitely true, the truest thing I can say, which is that I don't know.
Never know.
This is the Everyone's Agnostic Podcast with Bob Pondillo and Cass Midgley.
So as I'm seeing the therapist, going through the divorcee kind of stuff, I'm getting the idea, what an abusive person is like and the things that they say. And I was like, hey, that's me. Check, check, check. After that happened, that was when I started to say in my head, wait, God's kind of like this too. Mm-hmm. Or this version of God that I've been shown. This entire version of the Bible that I've been shown. And frankly, I still feel duped by the version of Christianity I got. Maybe there is a different version that people were happier with, but the one I got, I feel duped by. But the fact that this is gospel truth. This is your dictionary. This is your science book. This is your textbook for life. Everything is defined by this. And if it falls outside of this, then it actually doesn't matter, or you need to just say no to it.
Welcome, everyone, to episode 112 of the Everyone's Agnostic Podcast. I'm Cass Midgley. Today, Bob and I converse with guest Jane Doe. Obviously, she's going incognito. She's a pastor's kid. She's divorced with 2 children and pursuing further higher education, so she lives at home with her parents, who don't know that she's left the faith. She was an editor and writer for Lifeway Publishing, the mothership of Christian books. She edited for Henry Blackaby, Beth Moore, and ghost wrote for James Dobson. This is a great talk. We discuss the hard work of reconstructing one's life after the old foundation of theism is disintegrated, and talk candidly about sexuality and the patriarchal claims over a woman's autonomy. Jane compares leaving Christianity to leaving an abusive boyfriend, including the temptation to go back to him. We tape this episode on August 8th, 2016. If you're liking our show, please subscribe to it and give it 5 stars and or leave a review on iTunes, Stitcher, or wherever you listen to podcasts. Also, you can support us monetarily on a per-episode basis through our Patreon page. That's patreon.com/EA podcast. Or leave a donation through PayPal on our website, everyone'sagnostic.com. Our opening monologue is an excerpt from a YouTube by Hank Green titled Towering Mountain of Ignorance. The music behind it is Never Know by Jack Johnson. The segue music on this episode is one of our guests' favorites, Korean pop artist Astro. Thanks for listening, and be a yes-sayer to what is.
So what are we going to call you? You got a name thought up for us? Like Mary?
Yeah, sure. That's great.
Magdalene? I don't know. What's a good name?
Mary. Mary's perfect.
Jane Doe.
Even better.
We've always wanted to talk to Jane Doe.
Okay.
And now here she is. The infamous.
All right. Okay. Jane Doe it is.
Where are you from originally?
All over. Dad's a pastor, so.
Oh, okay. Well, in what tradition was he a pastor?
PCUSA.
I don't even know what that is.
Oh.
What is that?
Presbyterian.
Oh, Presbyterian.
Yep.
Oh, PC. P, I understand. What's the C part?
Presbyterian Church.
Church. I'm sorry.
Could even be congregation. Actually, what if that's the best question ever and I actually don't know what the C stands for?
I don't know. I'll go with church, though. It sounds
What if
like
it's
it.
charlatans and I just never picked up on it? Someone could have said.
It could very well
So
be. They're keeping
I
that
always get
quiet.
these mixed up. Wait, is that the more liberal one or the more?
It's the more letters make it more liberal.
Okay.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
That's the way to remember it.
Mnemonic.
Okay, good. Okay, so was it was it a hard? I mean, did you like your Christianity growing up?
I did, actually. It was a very... Are we talking like we're talking?
Yeah, we're just talking.
Okay. It was fun because it made me feel like part of the crowd. Mm-hmm. Because everybody I hung out with, especially my family, they're all very, very, very Christian. Mm-hmm. And
Sure.
And I never had another. There was no other flavor out there that I could see
Yeah.
to try. It was
Right.
just we're all Christian, so
Yeah, you walked right into it.
yeah, pretty much.
Your siblings?
Yes, I have them. I have two older sisters. We're each a year apart.
Okay.
Awesome.
And they're Christian to this day, or do you know?
Yes, one is married to a pastor, and the other one was married to somebody extremely religious who has changed his mind about life. I don't know where he is religiously right now.
Oh, is that the reason they broke up, or do you know?
No. There were some other pants-related activities that went on. So
Very well put.
that
Thank
would
you.
happen.
Yeah. Now you at least based on what Cass was telling me, you were recently broken up as well with your husband.
Broken up. I like that
How do
term.
you say
It reminds
that?
me of being in high school.
Yes.
I broke up with them.
That's
I took
right.
a house in the breakup, and it's a good breakup.
Well, how do I say it? Recently divorced.
Yes.
How's that?
Rather, it's been like 3 years. It was in
Okay.
2013. He moved out in 2012.
And that was it because of the religious thing, or was it again pants?
Pants related.
Pants oriented. I see. Oh my. God, I'm sorry. That's shitty. It's
makes me
really
feel
shitty.
bad.
You know.
It makes me feel bad because I know it makes my mom have a source of shame in this one matter because she's a marriage and family therapist. And I think there was some family pride in like, we all know how to be a functional
Yeah.
family and pick functional people. Clearly, that's not the case.
No,
Clearly.
I guess not. But it hurts. And
I
it's over.
think that's
It's over.
unfair, especially in this case to your mom, because like,
Hey, okay.
I'm just saying that I was just thinking this week. I've got a friend who's a psychologist, and he's like amazing. He saved my life. I think he's the most beautiful,
yeah, he's a great
smart, and he's got some seriously dysfunctional children.
guy. Yeah, he does. Yeah.
And it's a it's a misnomer for me, or it's a what is that when I can't a word for I don't know what to do with it,
Right.
That's good. Just use those.
and it makes me think about myself because I've kind of prided myself on being a great communicator with my kids.
Go on,
and,
yeah.
And they're going to be great, and they're emerging into young adulthood. My oldest is going to be 24 at Christmas, and they're making some good choices, but they're also making some scary choices, and Mindy and I are. This is not my show. I'm not the interviewee here, but Mindy and I are kind of not used to just being sidelined. Like, we're just consultants really now.
Yeah.
That's as good as it gets. Like, we can't say, no, you can't see that guy anymore or whatever.
Right.
Yeah.
So anyway, our parents all did the best they could with what they got.
Yeah,
And
that's true.
And I think nobody goes through life unscathed. I mean, here we are in the West. America's the most privileged place in the world. So but even here,
Yeah.
I think everybody needs talk therapy, period.
Yeah.
I think everybody's a little crazy,
Yeah.
too.
And do you have kids, Jane?
Yes. Speaking of a little crazy, yes, I have two sons. They're a year apart. They're 8 and 9.
Okay. So how are you going to do this now? I mean, are they Christian kids, or are they like, I'm thinking about it, or what do you do? How do you handle that?
Righto. They were raised in church somewhat. They also went to Mother's Day out in 2 Baptist schools. And I remember one of them graduated, like they say, from Sunnyside Camp. And I remember the head of the school saying something like, everybody gets a Bible. We all get a Bible handed to us. And now remember, kids, how God is smiling down on you when you open your Bible each day. And that was the first time I'd been in a place where I was like, what the faux? No, that's not the case. And so that was alarming.
Yeah.
I would
yeah,
say.
I would guess. Yeah. Wow.
Well, we did everybody on the show has had some kind of deconversion story. And so we did kind of just jump in presuming that you're not a Christian anymore.
I would say that I am pretty much, I would say I'm an 80% atheist. It's kind of like, because when you leave Christianity, you've kind of broken up with an abusive boyfriend. And so it's hard because sometimes I think about going back to that person because I remember the good times and I remember what was nice about it. Plus, I also, I have everybody else around me is still dating that abusive boyfriend. And they're just like, don't you want to come back? Remember all the good parts? And
He's awesome.
He's the greatest abusive boyfriend ever. And so part of me feels isolated by that. But I can tell that the more I think about it, the more I feel like it was a good choice to leave the boyfriend. But
Wow.
I still have a hard time saying I'm an atheist. I think I told one mom at the pool, and after I said it, I wanted to just run away. But my kids were swimming, and so I have to stay.
It is a hard thing. I remember, the journey for me was like 5 years between leaving my boyfriend and all the deconstruction till I could let the word atheist roll off my lips. I mean, there's something very...
Yeah,
and now, I mean, that was 6 years ago, so I'm very comfortable being an atheist. But it did take a while because Jesus was so precious to me. Jesus was my all in all. I mean, I was the most radical Christian that I personally knew in Oklahoma. And then came out here. I got involved in Don Finto's church. I don't know if you know Belmont Church on Music Row, and a lot of music industry people but Don became, like a surrogate father to me. My father died when I was 17, and I just prayed from 5 to 7 in the morning every morning for years.
You did?
Yeah.
5 to
Loud
7.
prayer where you pace around the church.
Really?
Yeah, shouting and chanting and
no
speaking
kidding. For
in tongues.
2 hours.
2 hours.
That's just amazing.
We used to
me.
get the newspaper out and just pray the headlines. I mean, we'd
What? You've never told me this.
I think I have.
What are you keeping from me here? Really? Isn't that something? So you just walked around? I'm sorry. It's difficult for me to understand this. I'm in a different planet here.
Yeah,
apparently.
that's why you're here. That's what's great about you having you on the show, is because he's the voice of somebody who never drank the Kool-Aid and the perspective of somebody who's never,
Yeah.
So for those of us, in fact, I was just telling Bob on the porch, I was trying to think of a metaphor. I mean, we've had a million metaphors on here about leaving, like Christianity and the trauma and everything. And it's kind of like, I was just trying to think of another social expectation or pressure or, something that is something culturally prominent, like Game of Thrones. Everybody's seen it. And if you haven't, or Breaking Bad, or if you're not watching the Olympics right now or something, you must not be patriotic or whatever. But still, everybody just has the freedom to say, no, I haven't seen Game of Thrones. I'm never going to see Game of Thrones. And everybody gives them that freedom, and they don't say, well, I'm never speaking to you again. Whereas Christianity is this hegemonic thing that everybody expects you to be. And then when you say, no, I don't think I'm going to watch that anymore, or I think I'm not into the Olympics anymore, I'm not into that old abusive boyfriend anymore, then it's like
Really? Wow.
Well,
yeah, no,
they won't. You lose family and friends over it. And
sure.
else.
Did you have that, Jane? Were you were people, like if you say, I don't know, I don't think so, they would go, what? It's an outrage or whatever.
Yes, that kind of goes under the assumption that I have been telling people. I have told a couple of close Christian friends who I thought would not turn their back on me. And so far, so good. I think it's an exercise. We're all developing muscles in this. You don't think this way. Can we still be together?
Sure.
Because otherwise, I was kind of afraid the whole shunning thing would go on, because that's the only version I knew, which is, if you don't know what to do with a person and they're clearly outside God's will, then you need to scamper.
Were you ever on the other side, shunning people?
No, the closest I've come is I have a close gay friend, and he got married in Boston maybe 5 or 6 years ago. And I worked at Lifeway then. And I remember people saying, are you going to go to your friend's wedding? And I was like, sure, I'm going to his wedding. And they're like, you haven't given it any thought? Like, maybe you need to say something? And it occurred to me then, I was like, what would be the point of saying something? He's still going to get married. Am I sullying myself by going to his wedding? Which, by the way, the waiters at that wedding, yikes. There were some good-looking men there.
Hot-looking guys, yeah.
You might have sullied yourself there.
That was fun.
Wow, isn't that something? Wow, I hadn't thought, yeah.
No, but that would be a way of boycotting that, or by not going, all your friends are saying, well, if you make a political statement or at least a social statement by not going.
But I don't understand that, because there's this element of like self-betrayal when you decide that I've loved this person this whole time. Well, now this book tells me not to love this person anymore.
Yeah.
This book that's about love, it says not to love the person. And so...
Yeah.
Cognitive dissonance.
Yeah, really. Absolutely. And just the thought that, you just go tell them, say, you shouldn't do this. And, we'll go, okay, fine, I'll stop or whatever.
Yeah, that'll sway.
That's kind of crazy, isn't it?
Yeah.
But
so you mentioned Lifeway, and we don't want to say too much that would identify you, but I'm fascinated by some of the work that you've done.
yeah.
Can you talk about that?
I worked at Lifeway. Actually,
now, what's that for those who don't know?
Lifeway Christian Resources, it is the mothership for a lot of
Christian bookstores.
Christian publishing.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
They
I remember.
they do the Blackabees, Experiencing God. They do Beth Moore books, Priscilla Shire, Angela Thomas. All the hip hop ladies are at Lifeway.
I don't even know these people.
Yeah, it's a Christian subculture.
Okay, cool.
So for several years, I was editing there, and then I started ghostwriting a little bit. I did far more editing than I did ghostwriting. I also worked on a magazine there. I was just thinking about this. It was called Christian Single.
Oh.
And part of me still feels like that was the most desperate title you could give a magazine, but the people were really nice. And we interviewed a lot of interesting folks before they got married, like Brad Paisley and, who's the cute blonde? It's not going to come to me. Anyways, She was in Wicked.
I know who you mean.
Kristen Chenoweth.
Yes, Kristen Chenoweth, yeah.
She was dating a Jew back then. And part of me was like, are we publishing this? She's dating a Jew. But yeah.
Wow.
Still did.
So Christian Singles was, as you would think, it's some kind of meetup book, right? Or what do you call it?
No, just people's stories probably about how
single?
it feels to be single and Christian. Yeah.
And life advice, that kind of.
Oh, so you don't try to hook them up. I see.
No.
All right.
That would have been something else to sully you.
There might have been a few personal ads in the back or something. No?
We never accepted a single personal ad. We're very proud of
Gosh, so what's the point? Okay, fine.
Yeah, I don't know.
The point would be for some people in this culture, here again, there is a cultural pressure to, aren't you going to get married?
Yeah, or save yourself from, don't have the sex thing.
Yeah, there's that. But I'm just saying the pressure to get married and do the American dream is pretty strong, and whether it's Christian or not.
Yeah, that's true.
And so for these people to say they've made a choice to be single, or at least for now, and so they found solace in reading about each other's stories, probably. I don't know.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah.
When frigid people reach out. Okay, so I was... Ghostwriting for... I'll name some of the people... because it's kind of embarrassing. It's embarrassing because I know that reached a lot of people, and they were seriously altering their lives by this solid advice that I, as a 23-year-old, was writing to them. But so I did edit for the Kendricks. Those are the Love Dare people. More of their ancillary, because once you start a topic at Lifeway, they will milk that cow until the cow falls dead over from parched frustration. Yeah.
So
explain that one. What's
the
called?
Love Dare? Did you ever see, like, Kirk Cameron was in the Love Dare movie, I think.
Oh, boy.
I think it just didn't have enough daring.
Is that
in
the
it.
promise ring?
No.
Or is that the purity ring?
No, sorry. I didn't get involved with that enough.
Okay, so I don't know what Love Dare is, actually.
Yeah,
Love
me
Dare,
too.
it's a challenge where people whose marriages are falling apart, they're like, hey, do this, I don't remember how many days challenge, and that'll help weave you back together because you'll actually recognize the pain the other person's feeling and get to love them again.
Huh. Did you try that?
No,
on yours?
Didn't work out so well for
Okay,
me. No,
just thought I'd
pants
ask.
issues. So, the Love Dare, the Experiencing God books, the ones that came later, all the ancillary ones, and
What was Experiencing God books? What were
Pop,
they?
you're so delightful.
I
Okay.
know. I don't know these.
It was huge.
It
Yeah?
was just a big, fat workbook that was like, hey, you're not doing life right. You need to be focusing on God every step of the way, and this is the way to do it.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, so the core, even Jesus said, I do nothing but what I see the Father doing.
Mm-hmm.
So that was, to me, his forfeiture of his agency. Mm-hmm.
Oh, nice thought.
Yeah, and that's where I lived. I mean, I was trying to be like Jesus. He was trying to be like the Father, so we're all just trying to, well, even John the Baptist said, I must become less, he must become more. So there's this intentional eclipsing of what it means to be Cass Midgley. I mean, the self is denied, crucified, the old is gone, the new has come, and the new is Jesus, or the new is the second Adam, and the old Adam is dead. And
Right.
so there's a lot of psychology around the biblical perspective of self-denial. So that was Blackaby's point in that book, was Jesus only did what he saw the Father doing, and that we should do what we see the Father doing.
Huh.
Anyway,
Well, I mean,
but right before you asked your last question, she was about to say the name that
I'm not going to say it. You want to hear it so badly.
it's almost like a trophy for me to be able to say, and I hate the us and them, you've come over to our side. I hate that, but yet there is a little bit of that I love, the fact that you... Anyway, you used to ghostwrite for...
James Dobson. James Dobson. James Dobson. James Dobson. James Dobson.
Wow. James, that's the family foundation?
Focus on the Family.
Focus on the Family, that's
Yes,
right.
that's correct.
Wow. He's
Colorado Springs.
Old, misguided.
doesn't like television, doesn't like certain kinds of television and like that, right?
I did not actually interact with the man. I just simply
But you
read his
wrote for
previous
him?
stuff and then used the tone and voice in future writings.
Wow. So we don't know if it's like, is it Paul?
we
or
never
is it-
know. Right.
Did Paul write it or did somebody else? Isn't that interesting?
Pseudo-Paul.
Pseudo-Paul, yeah. Wow.
Yep.
So this was your pseudo James.
Yes, that's me.
That's what we'll call her.
Yay! Better than Jane Doe.
Wow.
But as much as I kind of enjoyed that, because I'm like, oh, I'm leading people to the Lord, and this is so helpful. I also was at the same time working on women's studies, which includes Beth Moore. She is just the bomb in the Baptist world, and some other people with large hair who were very influential. But the problem was I was also editing a lot of Sunday school material that went out, and I kept seeing week after week this stuff about women in submission over and over, and each little angle they took on it. So be sure your husband's having a good week, and check out life with him first, and make sure that you're helping him feel like a leader. And I was just, each time I got it, I would just hit the delete button just a little bit and take a little part out, and then I would send it off to be printed. So
Wow.
I was being very dishonest in that I wasn't actually telling the people above me, I don't agree with this. This isn't okay. I don't think this way. Instead, I was just, putting my own liquid paper on it and then saying, bye,
Wow.
Felicia. Yeah.
Isn't that something? That wow.
Bye, Felicia. Mm-hmm. Who's Felicia?
I have no idea.
Okay.
Well, so you went to you went to college, of course. You went to university.
Yeah, I did one of those things.
Did you study? What did you study?
I studied, my boyfriend, I studied
outside of
English at Furman University.
Okay.
It's a nice school.
Well, I mean, just because you said I read James Dobson and I heard his voice, I could write it that way. But you have to be able to listen as you read and then be able to, duplicate that. And so that takes some,
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
you have to be, at least,
seriously,
you have to be
Not a
educated to do
superhero
that.
It's a skill.
Yeah. So cool. All right.
It's a market.
Or not. I'm not certain if it's cool, but it's.
So you got a bachelor's in what?
English.
And are you going on to graduate studies or something?
Actually, I am. I am leaving editing and writing behind, and I'm going to get a nurse practitioner degree.
No kidding.
Because once you start to think, if this life is all that we've got, why am I helping people with their grammar when I could actually figure out the body and help heal people so that they're actually not suffering as much? Also, whenever a mission trip comes up, which I'm not going to lead people to the Lord, but whenever a mission trip comes up and I'm like, hi, can I help diagram sentences? I can do nothing for the people in other countries.
Right.
So I kind of like an actual skill.
Wow,
cool.
That's awesome. Well, good for you.
You mind me asking how old you are?
No, 43.
You're two boys.
Yep.
What age?
8 and 9.
Okay. Is your ex-husband still a Christian?
I don't know.
Oh.
Is there a follow-up question to that? Like, do you care? I don't care.
Well, do you have joint custody?
No, that's fun that it says it on the documents, but that's not actually the case. I have them most of the time, and I prefer that arrangement. Actually, I almost want to thank the ex-husband, not for a lot, but for one particular thing, in that he was an abusive narcissist.
Oh, gee.
I feel like there's so many of them now. That's like,
Yeah, one's running for president.
you can swing a dead cat, all these narcissists. But so the beauty of that was that, well, that made it sound too much like there was a reason for everything. I appreciated that, in that reading up on what I was dealing with him was what led me to see, hey, wait a minute, that's kind of how I feel about God. That sense of like controlling things for your own good and making sure he's taking care of the finances for your own good and belittling the things that you think because they're not up to snuff and making sure that your behavior improves so that, you're a particular way. And basically somebody having power and control over your finances, your social stuff, your psychological stuff.
Well,
your physical stuff.
Your behavior improves. What the hell does that mean, even?
Well, usually a narcissist feels like there's one way to do things, which is why narcissists make great pastors. Great pastors!
I see.
But, and his way is the right way.
Oh, geez.
The way, the truth, and life.
I have enough time, just controlling my own life. I can't even imagine doing that to another person.
I can.
Can you imagine me?
I can't imagine you.
No, but I mean me telling Edie, my wife,
No.
Oh,
but
man.
I was speaking for myself because I am a narcissist and I was a pastor, and I have to this day I have friends that got me that sign on the wall right there that says "Save time, see it my way."
Man!
So that's who I am, and I'm at least self-aware of it.
It's useful.
who you were.
and I try to rein it in a little bit, but it's definitely there. And for lack of a better word, it could just be alpha or leadership, or you got some traits that want to take the lead.
Right.
That's all my life,
Right.
However, when you said it seems like you could swing a cat or whatever and hit a narcissist, and I think
Sorry about that.
no,
That's right. We don't like cats.
no,
that
no.
much
What I'm
here.
saying is that we just got through talking about the submissive woman atmosphere that's created by Christianity. Well, America has been steeping in Christianity since its inception.
Righto.
So 270 years or whatever of patriarchy, supported not only by the Bible, but supported in the character of God.
Yeah.
So this emulate God, be like God. I mean, as a culture, we've not only fostered an atmosphere that created narcissists, we willfully and vocally and celebratorily said this is the good way to be. And I think maybe we're learning that.
Yeah, maybe.
That in this case, Hitch was right. This religion poisoned America.
Yeah.
In this way.
I think there's some truth in that.
I feel like fundamentalist Christianity has done a lot of harm. I don't know if there's other versions. Like I tried progressive for a while on the way out of Christianity, and that still didn't quite scratch
Like
the itch.
Emergent.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Brian McLaren stuff.
Brian McLaren.
And then Rob Bell, and then
Yep.
I was just like, no, it's still not there. So
I did the same thing.
You did?
I loved those guys, and they were definitely stepping stones in my deconversion. To this day, I think they're brilliant, fascinating
Yep.
people, and they're doing their best to reform from within.
right.
And so I applaud most of their work. But I went to see Brian McLaren at Stan Mitchell's church about a year ago.
Yeah.
Sat on the front row, waited for the Q&A. And then I just said, I stood up and I said, Brian, I'm an atheist today because of you. And
Yeah, that helped.
well, he was not surprised. And the truth is he and Rob Bell are probably as agnostic as you can get, and still, an agnostic version of Christianity.
What do they hang on to, though, if they're agnostics?
know.
What is
Well,
that
just the
one
person
thing?
of Jesus.
Okay.
Mostly just like that's the last thing to go, I think, for most people is that this character that we think is Jesus, because he's completely the object of hearsay.
Go on.
But
Yeah.
what there's a Jesus in there that I think maybe that old boyfriend that they just can't break up with, or they're codependent, or they're an enabler, or whatever.
Well, just going back to the pants guy, your husband,
Righto.
former husband, when you said he was, what was that word?
Narcissistic?
Well, no. Did he slap you around, or did he just
abusive?
Abusive. Did he just do it to your head, or
Right.
what was he up to?
That's what makes it so subtle and so difficult. First, he was emotionally, verbally, and a little bit of the pants version of abusive, meaning sexually abusive. But I was such a ripe field for that. like growing up in the Christian church
Sure.
where you're just like, your body doesn't belong to you, it belongs to God, and your thoughts aren't really yours because he's sorting through them all the time. And
Your body belongs to your husband, too. That's
that
part of
too.
My
But basically, what you want to do is, you remember somebody talked about having a God-shaped hole? What I always thought of was that it was more like it was a God-shaped hand puppet, and like you carve yourself out, you take out all your seeds and all your nutrients, you fling them aside, and you make yourself a nice empty hand puppet hole so God can cram his hand up you and make you behave in the way that you're supposed to.
Yeah, that's pretty much the intent.
Sorry about that. That sounds a little.
My gosh.
It is invasive, though.
I'm like, how is it? I mean, you're an intelligent woman.
I
You're
like to
a
think
good
so.
writer and stuff, and yet you would go, anything you say or something. Wow.
Well, it's like what Marie LePage said a few weeks ago. It's mind fuckery.
Oh yeah. Oh, absolutely. I mean, it is abusive. It is a very abusive religion when you
And it takes a
when you
while
get down
to
into
get
it.
over. I mean, it's we've
absolutely.
used the metaphor before of the tree that grows up around the fence post, and then they come around and take down the fence. Well, there's still this
Interesting.
there's
I
still
like
this
that.
hole in the tree, and maybe eventually the tree will grow so that you can't tell there was ever a post there, but maybe not.
It's still bent, man. I don't know
Yeah.
if you can change that.
Yeah.
That's funny. You know how in Christian circles they say, like, when were you saved? I'm starting to think of it differently now. I'm reading this, like I told Cass the other night, I'm reading this book on the history of obscenities and profanity, and it's called Holy Shit.
Oh, I think I have that.
Oh,
I
it's
think
good.
I have that.
It's
Yeah,
really good.
It is good. It is good. Yeah.
But some of the words they used back in olden times, one of them is be shittin'. And part of me realizes that, when I say, when were you saved, among agnostics or atheists, it's more like, when were you be shittin'? When did you fall for it? When did you first realize?
It
When-
sounds like be smitten.
yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, I heard that too. We talked about that. I was doing some election thing, and I heard a guy, just as he's coming out of the election booth, talk to somebody saying, "And when were you saved?" As if it's like, "What did you have for dinner?" One of those kind of things. And it's like, what? I'd never heard that before, and apparently that happens frequently.
Yeah.
I mean, I know. Aren't I cute?
Yeah.
I'm just precious. I just don't know.
Well, and
these
that's
things.
what makes it cute is he was so stunned to hear somebody ask somebody that he hasn't stopped talking about it.
It's just very, very strange. To me.
But it's a window into that little world that
Yeah.
you're intrigued with, and that I came out of, and
Yeah.
so did,
Yeah, so when were you
did
saved?
Jane.
When was I be shitting? I think, see, isn't it fun?
It works
It's a good time.
Yeah.
I think I always got the spiel, like from day one, Jesus loves you and he has a plan for your life, la-di-da. But I remember being around 6 or 7, this is when we lived in Dallas, and somebody really put it to me about hell. Mm-hmm. And do you want to be at hell or do you want to be with your family? And I was like, well, I already know the answer to that. Well, okay, so I'm saved now. I'm one of these people. I can do that. But as soon as you step into the mindset of, I agree with this mentality, we're moving forward on this path.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You're just like, okay, then these thoughts now make sense to me. This makes sense to me that I need to give my life. I need to give up what I think. I need to make sure I'm staying in line with these tenets so that I get the golden ticket at the end of this ride. Mm-hmm. I want to get to heaven and be with my family. Mm-hmm. Wow. When I first started to leave Christianity, the idea of losing the golden ticket, that was the best part of the abusive boyfriend. Like, why would I give that up?
Sure.
That was the hardest part to get over. And I think I'm still sort of chewing on that.
Yeah.
Like, what does that mean then?
Cass always says it takes a while. It takes a long while.
That's a plus.
Especially since, you have such a background in it as well.
Yep.
So where are you from originally then?
Oxford, Mississippi.
Okay.
We had tapes of me and my sister singing Jesus Lives. It's awful. And then we moved to Dallas for a while, and then we moved to Central Florida.
Oh, okay.
Which is where all our accents went away because people are from Jersey and Canada and Central Florida.
Yeah.
So
now you talk like normal.
like normal.
But that language you were using
nowhere.
just then is groupthink, and because you wanted the golden ticket, which it sounds like Willy Wonka.
Yeah.
But
sure.
but because you wanted to be with your family and not burn forever, you made a choice, and you realized pretty quickly that in order to finish the race, and get that time with family versus torture, then you have to march in step.
Yeah.
And part of what we've done in deconverting and deconstructing and everything is marching to our own drum, and even getting to where we can hear our own drum.
Yeah.
Listening to self and gaining agency is the big deal. Mm-hmm. And then once you do, all those other people that you've been marching left, left, right, left, you're just, well, then you start marching to a different beat, and they're looking over at you going, no, you can't do that. You got to get back in step. And we had friends that just stopped, wouldn't speak to us for years.
Really?
And some of them have come around since then. But
And it's all wrapped up in fear and death, isn't it?
Yep.
It's wrapped up
and
in
the
hell
need to
or
be
something?
right, and the stakes are high. Eternity is the stakes. Where you're going to spend eternity. So that there is no higher stakes, even though it's completely a lie. That's what you.
Wow.
That's what you get. So,
Well, I mean, it's a nice idea. I remember when we were at my father-in-law's funeral.
it's beyond nice, right?
the
It's
Lutheran.
the most precious thing in the world to be able to. My dad died when I was 17. You think if somebody came along, not only do I get to avoid eternal torture, but I get to see my dad and hang out and go fishing and whatever imagination I can have of what heaven is.
Sure.
And I have a perfect body. I have a sinless nature.
Wow,
It doesn't get any better.
yeah.
It's the highest of all human imaginational esteems.
Babe, I understand that, though. I feel, wouldn't it be nice to talk to mom again? That type of
Absolutely.
stuff.
Yeah.
But, you got to put on your big boy pants and
keep them on.
And keep them on, right?
Since pants is the
That's
subtext here.
And just kind of accept what is, as you keep saying, Cass.
Yeah, say yes to what is.
Yeah.
Okay, so
All right.
let's talk about, I kind of want to get a timeline here. Like,
Okay.
so you said 2012 your husband moved out.
I moved out.
You moved out.
Yep.
Okay.
And were you at Lifeway at that point?
Yes, I was.
When did you leave Lifeway?
I didn't actually leave Lifeway so much as I was given the right foot of fellowship. That was
They found your white
no.
your white out.
I thought that was going to be it. And each
discovered-
day I lived in dread. Whereas one of my friends was like, "No, you're a spy. You're a spy for the other side. You're making things better." And I was like, "Yeah, it's not giving me that Mission Impossible feel." Or yes, it is giving me that Mission Impossible feel. Right. But one more thing about that, I remember coming up and I was in my manager's office. I think I was about to get the "Have a good day now." And I saw on her desk, she had this business advice, and Lifeway was following this business advice from James Cameron, where you want to work your team to death to get the best work possible out of them and pay them next to nothing. It was from some Harvard Business Review article or something like that.
Like the Avatar guy, the movie director?
Exactly,
Okay.
that dude.
What?
And I was like, oh, that explains why I'm so exhausted and I don't get all my work done and I feel bad about life.
And you're underpaid.
Yep, that too. Because Christians
That's the
don't get
American
equal pay.
way the last 30 years, really.
My gosh.
Do you know what it's like when women don't get equal pay and then it's women in a Christian publishing house? I think me and the janitor, we were neck and neck.
Yeah.
The janitor and I.
Wow.
Correct yourself.
And you just didn't feel like you could say, well, fuck you. I'm out. I'm out of here. I'm going to find somebody that appreciates me.
The entire American workforce is powerless to do anything because we're dependent on the system. In fact, I was just thinking about my daughter's graduated from college with an economics degree. She went right into banking and everybody starts at teller. And I think it might be $10 to $12 an hour or something. It's absolute poverty wages.
Pretty much.
And you know that the CEOs make literally 400 times that.
Yeah.
Sure.
And that's a relatively new thing because in the 70s, before that kind of just that went crazy, if the CEO made 10 or 20 times what their workers made, that was extreme. And now it's literally 200 to 700 times is the typical wage gap. So all I'm saying is, you've got some money coming in. Regions Bank makes X amount of profit per year.
Yeah.
And on that pie, just this little sliver goes to the fucking peons. And then this giant thing where you've got more money than any human could ever spend in a lifetime
Yeah.
is just hoarded at the top.
Yeah.
So it's a fucked system from if you're male. It's even worse if you're female.
Oh, absolutely.
And then you're working in a Christian industry that sees you as even lesser. So
Right.
Yeah. How is it possible that you're not like just pissed off all the time? You know what I mean? Because first of all, you're a woman.
he asks that of every woman.
I'm really serious, man. I would be like so pissed off. How dare you do that to me?
It's too hard to pick a topic on which to remain pissed. There's just so many that you could choose from.
Wow.
Yeah.
And also, do you really want to spend your short life that way? I mean,
No, I guess not. But still,
yeah.
it's annoying.
Yeah.
You know, and you got to put up with guys too.
What you're experiencing or what you're sympathizing with as you view their plight is they're marginalized, they're suppressed, they're looked down upon, they're second-class citizens. And you're just saying, why aren't you mad all the time?
Yeah.
And I think that that's an acute observation of any marginalized people, and I think it's part of Black Lives Matter. I think, I mean,
I think so.
So your question to say the black community is, why aren't you mad all the time? And actually, they're kind of...
They are mad all the time. They should be.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
That's it. It's like, why are we confused that they're mad or that they're firing back in the case of Dallas? I mean, it's ugly and it's never justified, but it's kind of surprising it hasn't happened more.
That racist stuff, that's our original sin, too, in this country, too. That keeps giving. That's the one that keeps on giving. You know?
And it doesn't help that we sweep it under the rug, but anyway. All right, so that was a little political commentary between Bob and I.
Little walk down memory lane there. So, all right.
So I was getting the timeline, and you were sitting in your manager's office. You saw this thing, and you think, okay, now I know why I'm treated like shit here. And pretty quickly, you were shown the door. What year was that?
That was 2014.
Really?
Okay.
They asked you to leave? They just said, well, this was your last day. Here's your check, kind of
We'd
a thing?
like to offer you a chance to resign. And I was like, I think I would like to accept this offer. So.
What did you do? Did you do something that was untowards or something?
Well, they've been doing layoffs for a long time. I mean, the Christian book,
is that it?
The Christian book industry is suffering. Seriously, I used to work at a Christian bookstore, and in the boom of the 90s, it was just booming, like selling Christian music right.
So they were just they were getting smaller.
You could say that. I think it was also some other reasons, but if I have a charitable heart, I'm just like, oh, thank you for this resignation package. I'll take it and be on my way.
A little severance. Cool.
Okay.
So what do you do now?
Now I study. I'm about to take microbiology and anatomy and physiology this first term, so I'm just going to study.
What school are you going to?
Nashville State.
I don't know that one, but I'm sure it's fine.
It's a good school. It's a good school because Vanderbilt and Belmont for similar programs are about 120,000. And I was like, I'm in my 40s. I don't want to start life like this. So
wow, you could certainly get into Vanderbilt though if you really wanted to.
Do you know that just means I've been exceptionally successful in giving off my vibe of look how intelligent I am? I'm quite intelligent. Don't you think so? I think so. Yeah, that works really well.
Yeah, you got me snowed.
Yeah.
So it's working.
Okay, so 2014 you leave there. I guess where in this journey did you start to listen to your own doubts about your faith or whatever?
Be less shitting. I think it was partly me researching stuff about the divorce. I went to a therapist, and I'd been to 5 or 6 therapists during our about 10 or 11 year marriage.
Are these typically Christian therapists? Or?
Yes, they're very good.
I'm so sorry.
Oh God.
That had to hurt.
And, well, you just want to make sure you're... Never mind. I was going to say lifting up your husband, but it just makes me so unhappy. I went to this one girl who had actually worked with domestic abuse. And so she finally saw it. And I said, I need some help figuring out how I can divorce this person. I'm exceptionally unhappy. And I don't want to be told that I need to pray more and that I need to go to more therapy and I need to do more fucking reflective...
Fucking reflective
listening. Thank you. So I don't want to reflective listen to this person anymore. I don't.
That's a thing, reflective listening?
Do you know that? So what I hear you saying, Cass,
that's
is that
just,
you don't know the idea
bullshit.
of
Come
reflective
on.
listening.
Well,
Anyway.
It's actually got some benefits to it. It's like going through a drive-through and you give somebody your order and they repeat it back to you. You feel heard. It makes you feel more open to compromise things.
Okay.
It's an excellent manipulative technique. And if you have a 3-year-old, wow, it works great. Meh. So I hear you saying meh, but they feel more understood.
I see.
Yeah, I'm a big advocate of Marshall Rosenberg's nonviolent communication, and part of that is repeating back to the person what they just said so they feel heard, and that's valuable.
Yeah, it is. You feel understood. It's a helpful thing.
Especially, I mean, if it's true conflict resolution. If it's just shooting the shit, it's not.
Yeah.
But if you're really in a conflict, and it's one of the ways to get out.
Okay.
Right.
Okay. So anyway, where were we?
Right.
So you that's what you said to the psychologist, right?
So I want out of this, and she helped me see that I might be going through some abuse because I did not label it as abuse. In my head, it was just, well,
Norm.
He puts me down, but everybody gets put down by people sometimes.
And I deserve it.
We argue, and everybody argues, because whatever version I was telling people, they were just like, well, that sounds normal.
Well, how did he put you down? What would he say? Like,
It was
oh,
just
you're
like-
just nothing? Or what? I don't even know how you put people down.
It's a delicate subtlety where they're giving off the impression that they know what's best. And if you're used to living in this mindset of like you submit to the guy because that creates the most healthy home environment, and isn't that what you want, the best version of life? This is the right way to do it. So he would basically say things like, that outfit doesn't look good on you, or
Oh, geez.
you're not doing a good enough job cleaning the house. And I remember when I would say things back and be like, you want me to clean everything immaculately? Sorry, I have a lot of issues with it still. It's kind of hard to go back in it. It's a lack of logic where whatever he was projecting onto me was not applying to himself. Like he would leave crap all over the house and be like, you didn't do a good job cleaning the pots last night. And I was like, I'm sorry, did I slave too late in the evening and lose some of my charm at it? I didn't do such a good job, did I?
Wow.
So as I'm thinking in my head how absurd this all is, I don't feel like it's okay to say how absurd it is, because if I do that and it hasn't worked in the past, one, what's the point of doing it now? Two, I need to stay married because we of the family Doe do not get divorced. We do not divorce. There's death, but there's not divorcing.
Wow.
So,
You're
Because your mother was a family therapist. Right?
Yeah. And
you
your
don't
dad
get
was
divorced.
a
You just need more
minister.
therapy.
Yeah, but your
Unless
sister
he's
got
hitting
divorced
you,
too.
because hitting is divorce or abuse.
Oh, but there was no hitting, but there was.
No hitting.
Well, even biblically, the only thing that justifies divorce according to Jesus is infidelity.
Right.
So there was no.
And I found out about that after.
Okay.
And that really pissed me off because I would have had a lot more support from people in my church if I'd been like, he's been glory holing with gentlemen during his lunch period. And, if I'd been able to say that, I would have gotten a lot more like, dear God, move on. Instead, I got that, don't you want to pray about it some more? Can we take you guys out to dinner and just talk it through? And I'm like, yeah.
Isn't that, and we're laughing and we're having fun and this is just like the girls, we're all talking. But
That was a very painful
this
season.
has got to be, you really got to be, it had to be fucked up. It had to be really tough, really
It's a
tough.
little messy. I
Yeah.
think what makes these things very
Breaks your heart.
difficult is not even my own processing, trying to hit the surface of the water and understand what's going on and doggy paddle for a while. It's realizing that I have my kids with me and wanting to be like, what is going on in their tiny developmental stages during these key, crucial stages where everything gets formed for life. And I really wish I hadn't read about that so I wouldn't have felt as much pressure. But, yeah.
Well, it's good that you have the kids. That your husband sounds like a dick anyway. So
Oh, I
what
got
the
something
hell?
on the microphone.
Your former husband.
Well, the truth is, and this is the paradox of life is that, kids are very impressionable, and some of what happens in these years is going to stick with them. But the opposite truth is humans are extremely resilient.
Yeah,
It's nice
that's
to
true.
think
And
about.
everybody walks with a limp from some shit that was done to them as kids, and we just get on.
Yeah.
I mean, I hate to do. This is where PC, like political correctness, sometimes does. I bump into it, and that is, I saw a movie once, and I can't remember who said it. This person was basically talking about the lineage, like the sins of the father, and just
Right.
all of this, and the advice that he got was sometimes you just have to say, fuck it, life begins with me.
Interesting.
And I know that that's, to a PC world, that's oversimplification, and you're only able to say that because of your privilege, or whatever. Easy for you to say. However, and I know it's not entirely true, because you do really kind of inherit shit from your, not only just nurture nature, but genetically and environmentally, you're walking with a limp from the stuff that they handed you. We grant you that. But there is something empowering to say, okay, yes, yes, you fucked me up, and the future is mine.
Yeah.
And the past was yours. You had your heyday. You fucked me over, and I'm going to do the best with what I've got. Now, thank you very much. Bye. Some kind of severance.
Well, it sounds like that's what Jane is doing. So
I like this Jane business.
That's right.
Okay, I'll get back to the timeline. So as I'm seeing the therapist, going through the divorcee kind of stuff, like I said, I'm getting the idea, what an abusive person is like and the things that they say. And I was like, hey, that's me. Check, check, check. And after that happened, that was when I started to say in my head, wait, God's kind of like this too. Or this version of God that I've been shown, this entire version of the Bible that I've been shown. And frankly, I still feel duped by the version of Christianity I got. Maybe there is a different version that people were happier with, but the one I got, I feel duped by. Almost to the point where I sometimes think, what version of the Bible, how it had been presented to me, would have made me feel okay with it. Like if somebody had started out by saying, check out this ancient book with this nice leather-bound cover. This is full of myths. This is full of morals. This is full of how an ancient people thought of life. If somebody had presented it with that preface, I would have been like, well, this is fantastic. I bet I could learn something from this. And aren't these stories interesting? Blah, blah. And this is how they translated life. I really would have been okay with it. But the fact that this is gospel truth. This is going to determine, this is your dictionary, this is your science book, this is your textbook for life. Everything is defined by this. And if it falls outside of this, then it actually doesn't matter, or you need to just say no to it.
Infallible, inerrant. The canonization of Scripture, as we talked about recently, was the end of logic or beauty within the religion. Because, like you said, if we could treat it, if we could navigate it like a fable, we could extract, from stories, remember when David killed Goliath, and now you can do this too, son. Go out there and hit that ball or something. Just pick a metaphor and
isn't that what like John Shelby Spong is doing? Though?
Absolutely, the smart people have done it for years. That was one of the beginning things for me as far as deconstruction. While I remained a Christian for years, I had already punted the infallibility and the inerrancy of Scripture. That this is a fallible book written by fallible people, and that's the only way to read it. And all this criticism of cherry picking. Nope, cherry picking is the only way to read it. Just like you would cherry pick any book. And any other book where you said, no, you have to believe every word of this author, they would call you a cultist,
Right.
So why is this a stretch? And Paul himself said, everybody hears in part and prophesies in part. And so anyway, that was one of the first things for me. But I'm just realizing, and see, you and I have known each other on a shallow basis for a couple of months.
Right.
Through the Clergy Project and through other things and some of these groups that we do together. But I guess I didn't realize how new this is. This is really new.
New for Jane?
Yeah.
Yeah,
this is really fresh.
Well, you got your head screwed on right, I think, though.
Well, that's nice to hear.
Yeah.
You're working on it, too. I mean, like, it takes a while, right?
That was the metaphor.
To get your head screwed back on right. So this is new. You're really only, besides the couple of people that you've told in the Christian world, your parents don't know, your siblings don't know.
Oh, gosh.
One sister kind of knows. I live with my parents. As a divorcee, it's kind of hard. Also, somebody who's going back to school, it's a little tricky to navigate that financially. So I live with them, and my sister, who also got divorced, and her kids. It's a big house. It's going to be okay.
You all live there?
We all live there.
Okay.
8 is enough.
And yet this one little big thing, you're not telling them. You're not going to.
Don't
till school's over anyway.
Yeah, I just don't. I don't feel like it would be received in a way that would make it worth my while. It's almost a little bit like being in an abusive situation again, where there's kind of no point to it, and of course their mindset feels slightly abusive to me. But when you walk into the guest bathroom, it's got that little plaque that says, "If you were accused of being a Christian, would there be enough evidence to convict you?" And every time I go in to take it to use the facilities, I just set it down. I just put it face down.
Oh, right. You don't want to look at it.
So is your dad currently a sitting pastor?
No, he's interim.
Okay.
He's interim.
So did they go to church on Sunday?
Not as much, which is fascinating to me. And when they do go, I feel like I still get the side eye from my mom, like, we're going to church now.
Yeah.
How about you? And
that's what I was thinking. Did they pressure you, or because if you stop going, there's going to be signs where you don't close your eyes at the evening prayer or the dinner prayer or whatever.
I'm sorry. That reminds me of how frustrated I got the other night. Well, it's been a while. I made this really nice chicken piccata. It took like an hour to make it, and they all sit down, and my dad's like, "Let's thank the Lord for." And I was like,
"Hey, what about me?
I made this
tenderize bread and egg. This thing, no."
Yeah.
But
wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I feel you on that one, because when we go back up to Wisconsin, we have to sit around the table and do the prayer, and
so they've got to be suspicious that your faith is waning.
I think so. I wonder how long we're going to play the game. If I'm honest, and I would say that's another thing I learned from Christianity, was just chronic dishonesty. Because if I tell the truth when I screw up, I'm going to get beaten for it, and well, not beaten like with a whip or something, but spankings did happen in our household. But I have this sense of chronic dishonesty because I not only don't want to tell people when I've screwed up, because they will come down on me with Thor's hammer. I don't want to tell people when I'm uncertain about things because I should know the right way to do things, and I should be able to follow through with
Uncertainty is a scary thing for Christians. They like to be in control and to know all things.
that. Right.
Yeah.
Because that's what feels best, is being
And
right
they say
superior.
other people are like, full of it. I mean, I just don't understand it. They have all the answers. That's not very, I don't know what the word is, but that's not right.
It's not honest.
That's not honest. No.
No, they can't be honest.
But that's the delight of dishonesty. You're never truly honest with yourself when I'm never truly honest with myself when I'm trying to play the role of the Christian. I have my church face on the entire time. You know, when you go to church, you're like, everything's fine. It's nice to meet you. How have you been? When my husband's, taking it out on me and my kids are crazy pants and other things that are wrong, you keep your church face on the entire time. And I'm so happy with the group that we've been hanging out with. I haven't put my church face on except at the beginning when I'm like, hi, how is everybody? Good, I'm good. But I can kind of peel it off and actually be myself with people, and I appreciate that. But anyways, this chronic dishonesty is where I can't even be honest with myself when I'm telling people about what I've done wrong, because I still want to showcase it a little bit and be like, it wasn't that bad. I didn't lie that much, or I wasn't this mistaken about the thing went on. When if I could just, it's like the way the Bible was presented messed me up. The way life was presented kind of messed things up. I got the feeling that life is not a case of trial and error where mistakes actually help you. Instead, it was like, do not make a mistake. Do not show flaws in front of people.
Wow.
And part of that is being the pastor's kid, where you live in the goldfish bowl and we never have any problems. We're extremely functional. Would you like to come over for lemonade and coffee? That was it. So,
yeah, it's just a standard of being human, being perfect that is unsustainable.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And so you're just kind of fresh off that treadmill.
yeah. Can you tell? I can tell because I'm speeding up when I'm talking. Yeah. I can tell that. Which reminds me, so moving along in the whole timeline thing, after I did my stint with the Christian publishers, I still like publishing, and so I got into secular publishing by joining a literary agency based out of New York. And I was like, oh, this is going to be awesome. I get to do YA, that's young adult novels. Big. And I really enjoyed it, but I learned something so key. I'd never heard the term agency before. I learned about it from the literary agency, where they're like, well, you want your main characters to have this, because we were editing books in process. And I was like, agency? Well, I don't know what the agency means. And so as I looked it up, I was like, what the? This is what I've been missing. Look, people have the power to make their own decisions, and they make meaningful decisions. And I was like, oh, okay.
Wow.
That would have been nice if somebody had talked about that too.
Yeah.
Yeah, your thoughts matter. What do you want? That's a question you never get asked in Christianity.
Really? Because there's a right answer for that. Well, what does God want?
Exactly. You defer. You cede your agency, your autonomy, your independent free will thinking to that which is pleasing to God, or
right.
whatever.
Wow.
So, yeah. Do your boys know that you're no longer a Christian, or that you're...
Would it make a difference even since they're so young?
I've told them, I think my previous spiel for the kids was, God loves us, and we get to be with each other when we die, la-di-da. And so that has morphed into, well, Mommy doesn't know what happens when we die. And I think that we need to allow people to believe what they believe. And I think the great gift in this is that you get to figure out what you think. You get to take in all the information, you get to sort through it, and you get to decide what you think sounds good to you, and you get to compare it with others. This is a process. And Mommy has not finished the process. Also, Mommy needs a gin. Can we just go get a drink real quick? So, but I think another part about agency I feel like there's a piece missing there, and lately I've landed on it, and it's consent. And it's because I've been reading blogs about like sex positivity and stuff like that, where they talk about consent being something that it's if you say, not just yes, but hell yes to something that you really want to do an activity, then you're learning the practice of consent. And when my kids get older, I'm going to start talking to them about what consent means. As it is now, I'm just like, can I give you a hug? Can I give you a kiss? Because I want them, when they get into romantic years, to be asking the girl, can I give you a hug? Can I give you a kiss? Good. I don't care how awkward that seems. Just because you don't see it in Hollywood movies and TVs doesn't mean it's the right way to live. Because too many times in my life, I found myself giving consent kind of after the fact, and it wasn't consent. It wasn't I want this. It's I don't mind this.
I'll tolerate it.
I don't mind it. So your lips are already on mine. You're already putting your hands in places. I'm like, well, I guess I don't mind it. But I didn't think beforehand, hey, I really want this. And so I want them to ask people, can I touch you, and name the spot you're going to touch. I don't want it to be just like somewhere that feels nice. I want it to be specific, and I want that to be what they practice. Because I don't want girls to just be like, I guess so, when they're with them. I want them to have an enthusiastic yes. And if they can't tell what that enthusiastic yes is, you stop.
And teaching them to know what that feels like to have an enthusiastic yes. I mean, probably people like yourself raised without agency may not even know if that is that a familiar feeling. Like, what do I want? I've never asked myself that. And how bad do I want it? I don't. I'm not here. I'm invisible. Remember?
Exactly.
I'm a girl in a Christian subculture. I don't.
I'm a hand puppet. I'm nice and hollowed out. There's nothing here.
Yeah.
Well, just that whole notion of a woman having a sex drive was denied on television for years and years and years in the 1950s, you know, through the 60s and stuff. So, I guess, well, you don't have a daughter, but...
But I do appreciate you raising sons to respect.
Absolutely.
Because this, again, like you said, you could swing a cat and hit a narcissist. And the reason that the culture is a rape culture, and the reason that the culture is, just so patriarchal, is because no one has ever like put a stop to it or suggested, hey, let's do things differently. Yeah. I mean, it is kind of uncanny sometimes. You watch these rape trials, especially like football players or something, and there's just so much, boys will be boys. Like, this is the norm. And that's what you're changing.
I think it does go back to the
Bible. At least in your sphere of influence, your boys are going to be different.
Yeah.
Hope so.
I think it does. I was saying, I think it goes back to
the
religion,
Bible.
Christian religion. Yeah. Because, subservient women and one thing leads to another.
I watched the Game of Thrones series. I watched it beginning to end. And there was a part of that I didn't appreciate in that. And it might have been the case, I guess. I'll maybe cede that. But it just was the norm in a violent culture, in a war culture, that you kill the men, you rape the women. As if...
That's what we do.
That's steps 1, 2, and 3 of normalcy or something. And I just thought, even if I was a warrior, I mean, just like... It just assumes that every man wants to fuck every moving warm hole that it can find.
That's delightful.
Well said.
And, I know innately and like reptilian brain-wise, it's true. I mean, there is some truth to our animal nature to want to fuck everything, but there is this prefrontal cortex that we've been that's been evolving for the last million years, and I don't know.
No, I never go there. I never think about stuff like that.
Yeah.
Well, can I insert something
here?
here?
So maybe, what am I? I don't know.
That's Freudian. Can I insert something here?
Yes.
A cigar. Don't cast. No. Save me. Okay.
A cigar. Go ahead.
I read this study in some psychological magazine that talked about people getting aroused. And so in the study, they stick people in one of the brain scanning machines, and they're shown explicit or subtle pictures of sexuality happening. And their point was that everybody's brain lights up when they see these things, men and women. But in women, their cortex also lights up, where they have judgment and control. And the point of the study was that women associate sex with safety, because that's, you're like making good choices in that area. Right. And so all the emphasis on casual sex can sometimes not respect the woman's sort of biological need to have that safety in order to enjoy sex, because when their brain lights up when they see those rowdy pictures, they feel aroused, but they don't necessarily feel desire, like this would be a good activity to pursue. It just sounds like a fun activity. But if you don't have somebody safe that you want to do the activity with, you're kind of like, whack, whack, never mind. I don't really want to. And I miss hearing from people that I know about the safety that they feel with somebody that they're intimate with. And I would also say that most of my Christian friends with their husbands, I don't hear them talking. There's maybe one or two, but I don't hear them talking about what a delightful romantic relationship they have with their husband. Partly it's because they've still got young kids and they're just like, I'm so tired, please don't touch me. Yeah. But it also is that sense of like, I'm supposed to give my body to my husband because my body belongs to him, and so I should say yes. And I hate hearing that from people, that I don't want to have sex with my husband tonight, but it's on the calendar, so I need to follow through.
I hate that too. It's rape.
Thank Thank you. And it feels like it's not okay to say that. It's not okay to say, like, if you genuinely don't want to have sex with somebody because he's your husband, you still need to. I remember one time my husband pointed to his ring and he's like, this means I can do whatever I want with you. And I was just like, oh
fuck
my
you.
God.
Really
And that's very Muslim
nasty.
too. That's Sharia.
Yuppers? Yeah.
That's very. Again, it's just the Abrahamic religions. Maybe not so much Judaism. I don't know. But it definitely seems Islam and Christianity are completely point to the ring and say this means I own your pussy anytime I want it. And it's the thought of masturbating with another human being's body. That's all it is.
I can hear that.
And that's disgusting.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I love this subject, though. I love this subject. I think sex is wonderful to talk about. We need to talk about it.
Yeah. That's
So
true.
your ex-husband, is he still a Christian? Oh, you already tried to answer that. You said you don't know, you don't care. But I guess what I'm asking is that when the boys are with him, is he influencing them towards Christianity or taking them to church?
I don't think so.
Okay.
I don't think so.
Is he with somebody else by now?
Yes, he has gotten remarried.
Okay.
Wow.
It was, in my estimation, kind of quick, but I remember when he was dating me, it was like quick, within 3 weeks, I think we should get married. And I'm the one who's from the marriage and family therapist, so I'm like, oh no, we date a year to make sure neither of us are manic depressive. And so, that was our standard.
So did you date a year?
Yep.
Wow.
And that also is, I know I'm not supposed to feel that way, but it's kind of a source of shame that I couldn't figure this out in that year. But at the same time, he's so good at it. He's such a charming person, extremely handsome, I almost said fart, but I meant smart, extremely smart and funny. And so those were like my top key things.
Is he a salesman?
No, he's
okay.
Italian.
He's
So what came to mind there, was there any impulse that God is telling us to get married?
No. If I'm honest, I would say that I was 26 and going towards 27. And I was like, the pattern that I see in life is that you go to school, you go to college, you get married, and then you start having children. Plus you have a job. Sorry, I forgot to mention the job part. But I need to go ahead and make my pattern get moving in this. And he was an incredibly intelligent, smart, handsome, blah, blah, blah guy who went to church. And so that was ticking all my boxes.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, this is something I can live with. To be honest, I dated other people in the past, and each time marriage came up, I remember thinking, except for the first boyfriend, that was like the true love where he did like, this is so magical. And then it's not. But I remember thinking, do I really want to get married? Like, as an institution, do I want this? Well, I'm supposed to. I'm supposed to want this. But not really. But time ticked, and I was like, I want to have kids, because that seems like the next step that's important to have. But as for me, I think it's almost the case of, since I'm not thinking for myself and I'm just looking at the examples around me, like for most of school, I had the Sweet Valley High novels that I could just follow. I'm like, oh, these are the things to do. And then after college, I watched Friends, and I'm like, oh, this is what I do as a single adult. And then I saw plenty of shows on married couples, and so I figured I'd know that one too.
Wow.
Another metaphor of agency and like just social pressures pushing you around and dictating where you go is like the pinball. Like the ball itself doesn't have any agency. It just gets knocked around and bounced around. And I think all these social pressures of it's time to get married, it's time to have kids, So again, you can, and people do it all the time, go from birth to death without ever exercising agency. Just because the society will take care of it for you. The society will tell you how to march, where to march, how high to pick up your knees, or whatever specifics.
Yeah.
And you don't need agency.
Wow.
It's a horrible existence, but
it also makes me think of coming out of Christianity. I'm concerned that the external authorities, again, are telling me what to do, and I'm not making the choice for myself, which again goes back to that whole domestic abuse thing. What my therapist said is that you never tell somebody to leave their abusive spouse. You never tell them that, because you are yet another voice of authority taking over control of their choosing facility.
so how do you do it?
So you point out the things that might be going wrong in the situation.
So they at least feel like it was their decision, or in fact it was.
Yes,
So
exactly that.
Yeah.
So that reminds me of when I want to talk to other people about, leaving Christianity, I can't actually say, you better leave Christianity. Because one, everything within you as a former Christian is just like, what's the matter with you? There's no way I would do that.
Yeah.
But it's also, they don't get the chance to make the decision themselves.
Yeah.
And that's when you have agency, when you have control, power, when you have effectiveness in what you're choosing, that's what makes makes you feel like this was my decision. This is who I am. And
It's a way of dignifying the other person. Yeah.
yeah.
So I guess you just have to wait for the person to come up to you and say, I've been thinking about this Christian stuff. I'd like to talk to you about it or something, because you can't go to them
Right.
and say, it looks like you're
Yeah, but if that happened,
not with us.
then yeah, go for it. I mean, if they're opening up that conversation, I'd pull up a chair, buddy. I'd have that time. That's that's an exciting thing. So where did you meet him, your ex-husband?
If I let you to guess, can you guess it in 3?
Where did you meet him in church?
There you go. Yeah.
It's
a fun game. That's right. Yeah.
Well, what was he doing there, apparently? Looking for a
Women.
wife or something?
Same reason I was there, except for the women part. Yeah.
Really? People go to church for the women?
Yeah.
I hadn't thought
Come
of
on.
that.
Church is
sorry.
Church is the bar for the prude.
It is. Oh, say it again. I want it on a shirt. Go on, say it.
Really?
Yeah, church serves as the meat market for those that would be shamed to go to a bar.
Wow.
They'd be shamed. Maybe the next step might be, Gold's Gym. Is the next step. But then the church is the
Really?
the safest place for you to find a lover without feeling too bad about yourself.
Honest, this is the first time
I think
I've
that's
even
how they pitch it. Yeah. Go ahead.
Really? Oh, well,
This is the safest place to go when you're feeling bad about yourself. Yeah.
well,
Well,
maybe
and they
if
all have singles groups too.
Oh, that's true. Interesting.
Ooh, trivia moment. Did
Okay.
you know that gymnasium actually comes from the Greek gymnos, which means naked? And I'm thinking about this because the Olympics are happening, and in the original Olympics, you were butt naked, except it was only men. Like if you were married, you couldn't go there on pain of death.
Really?
Again. I read a lot of books with my kids.
Apparently.
Yeah, there's
very
a lot
good.
of nudity in these books. That's another thing, though. I think, even though I'm a tremendous prude, I still feel it. I feel like there should be more nudity on television, but not
Absolutely.
perfect people. It needs to be flabby people with lots of hair. I just need to see more things hanging low where they should not go. That would just make me feel like nudity
coming.
was not such this great taboo.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I agree with you. And, it's funny. I used to teach in this area in media and stuff. And I remember one kid saying, well, I don't want to see that on television. I want to see stuff I don't see all the time on television. I want to see the hot babes. I want to see the hot guys.
What?
Okay. Yeah.
Sounded contradictory.
Well, I was sort of making this, why don't we see, people that look like me on television?
Oh, I see
you know
what you're
I
saying.
Or-
I thought you were saying he didn't want to see nudity and then he turned.
No,
but
he
just wants to see perfect
wants to
nudity.
see on you, yes, the stuff that you don't see. So
When this tragedy in Nice came up, where on Bastille Day, and the truck drove across the bridge and killed a lot of people. It reminded me of a time where I was in Nice. I was a high school senior on a trip across Europe, and we were on a beach in Nice, and it was a nude beach. And I was and am an extremely highly libidoed guy because of my exposure to porn at a very young age.
Go on.
I had I had neighbor kids that we experimented with. I had a babysitter that experimented with me at 5 years old. So my mind opened up to sexuality really young, and it hasn't shut since. So anyway, but I just was, and I think especially being a Christian, we always talk about the power and the energy behind taboo. If I were to say to you, you can go in any room in this house except this one with the door closed. I mean, don't think of pink elephants. Whatever we forbade, we want. And so the energy behind, all this pornography and stuff was just on nitrous oxide with Christianity behind it. So I go to this beach. For one thing, I'm 18 years old, so that's my hormones. I mean, every day is a blue ball day in that world. But so here's naked people, and I'm talking full nudity, not just topless. And they're laying out on the beach, just everybody playing volleyball, topless, bouncing around,
Yeah, okay.
But one thing that it did is it made it mundane.
yeah.
It took out
longer
the
taboo.
energy of it. And I think one of the things that contributes to the rape culture is the prudishness and the religiosity of taboo, and that this is Indiana Jones went after the
Holy Grail.
Holy Grail.
Really?
So in a way, and of course we all understand the power of rape. I mean, it's a power thing. So
Right.
we're putting a woman in their place, and then there's all kinds of symbolism and psychology going on, and I just think when you see more nudity of all shapes, that's the key.
Go on.
It's just it's just kind of like, it's to me, it's like how a doctor or gynecologist or feels about anatomy. Mm-hmm. Like, in fact, I had a hemorrhoid lanced a couple of months ago, and it was about the size of a grape.
Oh boy!
And it was very painful. There's a long story, but these two doctors came in, and female doctors, and I'm literally, they say you got you over a barrel. I always think of Quentin Tarantino's movie Pulp Fiction when I hear that. But anyway, so I'm bent over and they're spreading my ass cheeks. First, they're going to inject it.
Oh, gosh!
They're going to
So you can't feel it.
Anesthetize it. And so, here we go. And, then they lance it. And so, but they love doing it. And I'm like, they even talked about, like, this is our favorite thing to do is lance lance hemorrhoids.
Yeah.
And I'm comfortable enough in my anatomy that it's like, it's just another ass. And,
sure.
and my whole junk is just, completely.
Wasn't Lance Hemorrhoid a Hollywood star in the 1960s? I think so.
I think he got caught for doping. No, but anyway, I just love the non-issue here.
Yeah.
You're just gonna get. You're looking
just
up
people.
my ass. I mean, so what? Everybody's got one, and anyway.
Yeah.
So this just dispel the taboo and the energy around it. Mm-hmm. Okay. In closing, what are some of the things you do personally for recreation?
I listen to K-pop.
What is that?
Korean pop. It's got a lot of like very happy sounding songs, and sometimes when you feel sort of nihilistic about life, it's nice to hear K-pop. Wow. I like Astro. If you're looking for a band to try out, Astro.
So is the lyrics in Korean?
Yes, which is another helpful thing because usually I'm like, I don't know what they're saying, so it's just
happy.
Yeah.
Happy.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Cool.
K-pop.
Yeah, come on.
Wow.
Give it a try.
Yeah, get with it.
I'm also playing the ukulele now. And
Get out.
Yeah, it's fun.
That's awesome.
It's fun, and just the basics of reading and hiking. That's the normal parts of life.
So you hike.
Mm-hmm.
If you could get in a time machine and go back in time to any major historical event that you could, what would you like to be a part of? What historical event would you like to have been a part of? I wasn't asking you.
I'm thinking. Yes.
I would like to think that I would like to take part in the Underground Railroad.
Okay.
But that I feel like I'm just sort of like buffing my pads here.
That's the right answer.
Yeah, the proper answer is, the real answer is I'd like to go back for the explosion of Mount Vesuvius and just to feel the panic of such an awesome thing happening, or one of the tidal waves that hits. I just want to see the awesome power of nature. I don't actually want that and to be terrified and not be able to escape the situation.
Sure.
But let me go back to the right answer. I would choose the Underground Railroad because this is good. This feels like a beauty pageant. I think I would choose the Underground Railroad because the kids and I read this book about Harriet Tubman, and in the book we found out that she has narcolepsy. And it talked about this one episode where there are bounty hunters on horseback behind them. She's in a station wagon, or no, but coach, with two slaves on either side of her, and somebody's just like whipping the dickens out of the horses to make them go so they can escape the bounty hunters. And she's like, "Oh la, I don't know what we're gonna, I don't want," and just drops off. And there's this 45-minute chase where they nearly get caught tons of times. And then she wakes up at the end, she's like, "Are we good? We're good. All right, let's just get up." And the two slaves are just like, just can't recover from it. And I was just like, can you imagine?
That's funny.
So narcolepsy is when you fall asleep in a random...
Do you know this?
I didn't.
Narcolepsy, it's an affliction where you fall asleep without wishing to in the moment.
And without notice.
Right.
Yeah. There are drugs to help you with that now.
Because it's dangerous for driving and stuff.
Yeah.
And such as... I was just thinking of the pageant. The pageant
and such as in order to and Asia and other Soviet countries.
Yes, I
remember
remember
my hairdresser.
that. Remember that girl. Mm-hmm.
Sweet thing.
No movies? You don't watch any movies, or you read books?
I like movies. In fact, I actually wanted to ask some of the people in our little private group if they want to go to the movies, but there's so much I want to talk to those people about that I feel like I'm wasting time to be like, "Hey, anybody want to go to the movies? You want to come watch Chris Pine with me? You do? Good. But I feel like a waste. Yeah.
Okay.
Well, I mean, the thing about that site is just throw it out there. Say, I'm going to the movie. Anybody want to go?
It's true.
And see what happens. And that's the beauty of both having planned, structured events and then some spontaneous every now and then. I think it builds community better.
Oh, wait. Okay, Cass, I have one last thing I wanted to say. There's this happy story about a tiger that was in the Washington, D.C. Zoo, and his name was Mohini. I don't know what it was. But he lived in this cage that was about 12 by 12 and would pace around in it day after day. And eventually, people are like, this isn't natural. We need to get him into his own environment. And so they created this 3-acre landscape for the tiger to get into. And the first day they drop him off, he continues to pace around in a 12 by 12 area in that brand new luxurious environment. Yes. And it continued that way until he died. And part of me feels like when I'm leaving Christianity, I'm concerned that I'm going to pace around in my 12 by 12 cage in this new agnostic, I don't have to take other people's instruction and follow the same patterns world, but I still feel myself doing the same patterns where I feel great fear. Now the fear is for there's nothing after this world, so, oh my God, I don't want to get in a car wreck on the way home. Whereas in the previous thing, it was oh no, I don't know that everybody's saved. That was the fear back then that kept me feeling kind of frozen and not moving forward.
Wow.
But I'm also learning I have a lot of fear. That's my primary motivator throughout most of the day. And every time I stop and ask myself, what am I afraid of? It's like I'm caring for myself. I also have been studying a lot of Buddhist stuff, not because I get all the mumbo jumbo, but I like them wanting to be in the moment and being present, because it feels like Christianity was just a trance the entire time. And I'm afraid I'll stay in the trance of I should, ought, must for the rest of my time, even in this new mindset.
Isn't
It's
that
just
something?
the right thing to do.
When my ma passed away, one of the things she told me, and my brother, we went in separately though. She said, "Don't be afraid. I've been afraid all my life,
Yeah.
and I really didn't have anything to be afraid of. But and because she knew I was afraid too. Now, not so much, but."
Yeah.
I'm a big believer in that the only thing we have to fear is fear itself. I think it's the biggest enemy of life.
It is, but I don't know what to replace it with. Like a habit, you have to replace it with something. I can't just say, okay, be brave now. Instead, I'm just like, I need an example. I still want examples. I need to see somebody live it out.
But part of telling yourself that it feels like you're taking care of yourself, but it can double as fear. Like there's a fine line between self-care and fear. Like I'm doing this out of fear, or I'm doing it out of self-care. Well, there's a lot of bleed over there. And you can feel, because here we are talking about agency, part of agency is self-care. That's kind of a new thing, that I matter. And what do I want? What do I need? And what am I feeling? And what am, nurturing yourself, that's actually a good thing.
Right.
But when it's coming from fear, when it's coming from, panic is a strong word, but it has to be some serious paradigm shifts in one's brain in order to see this life as its playful, meaningless existence, that it's consciousness. It's brief, and no one's going to know or remember you at all 100 years from now.
Yeah.
And this is your one little shot at whatever. Because in a sense, obviously in a brutal, harsh, absurd chaos reality, you're not promised happiness, and it's not even a right.
Right.
In fact, the universe is out to kill you if we were to personify it. Like this is a hostile place, and we are disgusting creatures. But my theory is, and it works for me at least, it's hard to sell, especially because my wife's the same as you.
You're working great at it so far.
Yeah.
I'm buying right in.
No, but it's ironic, but by looking eyes wide open without see no evil or hear no evil or pushing your head in the sand, you actually look at the absurdity and acknowledge it and just say, this is in fact what life is. It's hard, it's meaningless and painful and just get as dark as you can and as nihilistic as you can in some ways. And it's on the other side of that threshold where you've said yes to all of this, that you actually kind of move into a space where every second is in fact a miracle and amazing, whether it's banal or beautiful or fun or boring or painful or whatever. It's showing up in the form that it's showing up, and I'm acknowledging that it is and that I'm in it, and somehow I mean, all right, so this little boy gets killed on a beach this week, struck by lightning.
Yes.
Oh, really?
Yes.
And the little boy gets eaten by an alligator at Disney.
Right.
Two twin boys are left in a car at the grocery store and died. And we just think of all these senseless deaths or either random deaths like lightning or whatever. That's just what happened. Mm-hmm. And it's going to happen to every one of us in ways that we either do ourselves, like leave the boys in the car, or we're actually walking on a beach and hit by. I mean, you can't control it. And that's the other thing, is releasing control. I can't control. I don't know. You throw up your arms and just say, I'm flying here.
The releasing control part doesn't sound fearful so much as it reminds me of, like, you need to give it up to God. It reminds me of that.
Yeah, that's a good point. Good point.
But you're right. The paradigm thing, the paradigm shift. You know how you do it? Well, first of all, you have to play the percentages. Chances are you're not going to die today. Then
He likes the numbers.
Yeah. Then you fake it till you make it. Right. You just keep doing things that change the paradigm. Keep encountering fearful things and dealing with them, and then before you know it, you're fine. Thank you.
Well, because you go to bed
I'm a
that
doctor.
night and you say, I charged my fears. And here I am.
I'm still here.
I'm still here. Let's do this again tomorrow. You challenge another fear or charge another fear.
And then eventually that goes away. It's going to take a while, though. So,
It's a lifelong work.
yeah, it really
Every
is.
bit of this is a life's work. There is no arriving.
No.
Like even my little theory is like, I'm never going to arrive at being the best at nihilism or whatever.
Yeah.
Nihilistic happiness.
And I think hanging with your parents, too. Get out of there as soon as you can. That's what I say. I know. Because when I left when I was 18
Yeah.
and never came back. And I think eventually you turn into your own person then. That's just my experience.
How long is your master's program that you're in?
It's going to be at least 4.5 years.
Mm-hmm. And you think you'll live at home that whole time?
I thought you were just going to say, you think you're going to live through that? But,
Play the percentages.
it's
probably.
likely, unless I can get some work on the side. But getting work on the side means having less time with my kids.
Sure.
And I'm sort of weighing the pros and cons of that. So
No.
it's a process.
I think it's great that your folks invited you in and you can stay
That's
there.
true.
And you have your kids and you get go for it. That's what I say.
Multi-generational.
Yeah.
So if you were forced to say which one of your parents you have a closer relationship?
My dad.
Yeah.
My dad. My mom has far more fear in her, and since it's so repulsive to me and myself, I don't like seeing it in her.
It's a reflection.
Yep.
Well, it is the environment in which you were not only, I'd say, raised, but like it's the garden that you came out of. Like it's the seeds in your genes and everything, and whatever.
It is. And I think the biggest part of fear right now, like I can't even say that I fear death so much as I still fear disappointing people more than that. And there's another aspect to this whole, have you guys read about cuddle parties? Do you know what those are?
I have heard of those,
You know-
which sounds creepy to me, but that's fine.
I'm not going to one, but I read about the rules of it, and I liked the rules because they talked about consent. Can I touch you here? Can I do this,
Yeah.
that? But they also say you're directed, if you don't want somebody to touch you and they ask, can I touch you? You say no, and they are supposed to say, instead of considering this a rejection, it's supposed to be considered a redirection. So they say in response to you, when you say no to them, they say, thank you for taking care of yourself. And I would like to have that feeling when I say or do things that I know the people around me aren't fans of. And I don't mean just like passing gas to the
Instead of taking it
gynecologist.
personal.
Yeah.
When they say, can I touch you, say no. Most people are going to take that personal.
Exactly.
Or if you say, I'm not going to church, or I no longer believe this, or I'm not raising my kids that way, or whatever, then your mom is probably going to be likely to take that personal. And instead, you're wanting her to say, thank you for taking care of yourself. Wouldn't that be great if she had that kind of self-awareness?
Yeah.
Wouldn't it be great? It's magical. Yeah.
So,
No, I guess so.
Isn't it Don and Anna that do the cuddle
Yes,
thing?
yes.
Yeah, some
we have
mutual
some
friends of
friends
ours.
that do that. Yeah,
Yeah.
and
Okay.
and they're nice people, really terrific.
Well, they're naturists, too. They
Yes,
they
that's
go to
right.
nudist.
Wait, you cuddle outside? Wait, what?
I don't know that
I
they
don't.
do cuddling and naturism at the same time, but naturism is basically nudism.
yeah.
It is? Okay.
Yeah, naturism is.
Gotcha.
Not cuddling.
Right.
But they're the same people, and I'm just saying that's how progressive they are as
Wow.
people. They're amazing.
And they're in the South.
Yeah, they're
Yeah.
right here in Murfreesboro.
That's right.
In Murfreesboro.
yeah.
Okay.
I'll introduce you. If maybe there's a cuddling party coming up.
I just want to, I don't think they let you just observe. I consider that to be a creepy thing, but I honestly, since I had a bad touching episode with the spouse, I'm not so keen on
Yeah,
being touchy with other people.
Yeah, I get you.
Well, right, but that would be the exercise in charging your fears, or at least, pushing up against something that
Good
you
point.
don't want to do.
Good point.
And they would they would be the exact people to understand that.
Yeah, but
Like-
just have that.
All right.
Like I just think that they would totally understand that and respect that perspective. They would probably want to help you overcome that.
You
but-
can say no all night long, though, but
yeah,
at least you could watch.
yeah. They would be big consent people, I'm sure. That's
Okay.
the type of people.
Okay.
Huh. Interesting.
So,
I got nothing else.
I'm good.
you good?
Yeah.
Feel good about it?
I'm good.
Oh, it was great. So good having
Thanks for
you,
coming
Jane.
on.
Yeah.
Thanks for having me.
I like to think that of some people as like high performance sports cars, in that their brain is just high.
Yeah, really working on
She
all
can
cylinders.
turn on a dime.
Yeah.
She thinks so fast.
Brilliant. Absolutely
And these are
brilliant.
the type of guests sometimes that we have on that intimidate other people that are thinking about coming on, because
yeah.
they'll hear somebody like Jane, and this is not her name, of course, but they'll hear somebody like that, and they'll just say, "Well, I could never do what she perform." Like I say, high
Yes.
performance car.
Right.
I could never perform at that level. And
They should never feel like, they have to come and do something. Just come and chat. That's
yeah,
what
come
we
and
do.
chat. That's all it is.
Pretty much, yeah.
And so,
And Jane was great. Absolutely brilliant, smart, funny, just
Yeah.
a lovely woman, and good things ahead. That's what I
yeah,
think.
good
for
things
her.
ahead. But I think we were painfully aware of her plight and of her current situation. And to me, I think it's really fresh.
Oh, yeah.
Anytime that you're only 2-3 years out from the beginning of your deconversion,
Right.
You're still
So it's that, the deconversion, and it's the marriage.
the divorce.
My God, or the divorce, right?
Mm-hmm.
That in itself is mind-blowing.
And that's only 4 years old.
Yeah.
Actually, the divorce is 3 years old. The moving out was 4 years. But
So, so she's funny and she does all these funny little things, but I know this has got to it's just wrenching. It's so difficult, so sad.
And kind of like Aaron, the blind guy, in some ways, her circumstances force her to stay at home with the Christian parents.
Yeah,
She doesn't have a lot of options.
right.
She's kind of got to live at home if she's going to be a full-time student and a single mom.
And she's going to do great after that, too. So
Yeah.
good things, I see.
Oh,
But
yeah.
It's going to be tough, though. So love having her on. She was terrific.
Yeah.
I'd like to go back and check on her in a couple of years and see how she's doing.
Isn't it? I would love to do that with
Yeah.
every guest almost,
Yeah, just to see now where are you?
You remember our guest, maybe it was the 4th or 5th episode with Mary Grieshaber, and she works
yeah.
in a coffee shop. And I mean, just to go back and say, how's
What's
it
up?
going?
Yeah,
maybe
right.
we figure out a way to do that. Maybe not a whole episode, but just a little mini.
Yeah.
A mini
yeah, sure.
interview for 15 minutes and
Sure.
just checking in with you and
Yeah.
do those.
Like I wonder about Greta Vosper too.
Yeah.
Greta just went through. Is she still a minister at that church in Canada?
She still is as we speak. I think it's in jeopardy, but I don't know.
Wow. See that kind of stuff.
Now,
is
we've got a
interesting.
fan of the show from Canada who wrote us this week, Bob.
Oh, Bob Barnes.
Yeah,
yes,
Bob Barnes.
I remember seeing that.
And
yeah.
he had a chance to go actually visit
He went to see Greta Vosper.
Greta's
Really?
church.
Wow.
this last week. And, I was jealous.
Yeah.
Big fan.
Yeah. Well, you
Greta.
know her though.
Yeah.
You know her personally.
Yeah,
I've
we-
never had a chance to meet.
We Skype every now and then just
Mm-hmm.
to catch up. There's kind of a group of us that stay in touch.
Yeah, she's great.
Ryan Bell. And,
Another brilliant woman. We got to bring more women on. That's for sure.
yeah, and this is a few weeks out from being published, but I would like to say that I listened to an amazing podcast on Ryan Bell's Life After God podcast, where he interviews this British guy, and I don't have his name in front of me, but he wrote a book called Getting High. And he draws these parallels from like the history of flight. Like he literally kind of
I
does
see.
this psychologically and theologically looking at the human need to elevate.
Right.
And you've talked about this before, how like even the way that we worded the ascension of Jesus
Right.
was that he went up into the clouds as if that would be a thing. But that's our fantasy.
That's amazing. Yes, that's magical.
That's every human fantasy, because even though we are the most evolved animal on the planet, we still can't fly
No.
by ourselves, without machinery. So it's really cool how he pulls out this desire for height and elevation and in the context of religion and things like that. It's an interesting show.
Sounds like it.
I can't remember which episode it was, in the 40s. It's but Life After God, it's a good show.
Good.
Anyway, good to talk, man.
Yeah, I really enjoyed this one. This was a good one.
Absolutely.
Fantastic. We'll try it again next week.
Okay.
All right.
꼭꼭꼭꼭 숨어라 머리카락 보일라 나처럼 내게 날아갔어 별처럼 내게 꽃이 됐어 눈치챈 네 벌써 노란 꽃이 폈어 봄이 왔니 벌써 오케이 준비 완료 수많은 사람들 속에서 너 하나밖에 안 보였어 태어나서 처음으로 내게 반해버렸어 너 때문에 떨리는 손으로 정확히 조준해 속였어 용기 내서 고백할게 남자답게 널
숨바꼭질 술래같이 쉽게 잡히지는 않지 하지만 내 눈엔 잡히고 난 아직도 널 잡으려던 이지